a new podcaster as well who I loved working with when we did a few combines together at NFL Network, and he is a natural in this business of talking and communicating. NFL Tight End Conversations with Greg Olsen, the host of TE1, where all podcasts can be acquired from the Seattle Seahawks. Greg Olsen, how are you, Greg?
I'm doing well. It's always good to talk to you. How's it going?
How's your family?
You know, we're doing good. It's actually an off day here for us.
Okay.
We had a mock scrimmage yesterday, so we are actually enjoying the park out here in Seattle and kind of just walking around and enjoying the neighborhood. Everyone's doing good. We're figuring out school, as everyone across the country is. But everyone's doing good, and everyone's adjusting. Thanks.
Well, of course. And as you know, I like to take care of my teammates here, the Rich Eisen Show. I'm going to start off. Chris Brockman, who you've met a few times with this program, he's a diehard Patriot fan. He's pissed you're not with the Patriots, Greg.
That's 100% true.
Boy, as a team really could use you. Did that ever materialize? Never materialize? Did they ever knock on your door? Did that ever happen? I know you're happy where you are, but I just need to take care of my guy.
Thanks,
across the way here.
That.
Yeah, and I think in past years there were times where that almost came to be. I remember being called in by Jerry Angelo back before they drafted Gronkowski in 2010, and said they had a trade on the table to trade for me, and then of course that didn't happen, and they ended up taking Gronkowski, which turned into a smart move by their part. But there was always kind of this weird thing where everyone always thought I was going to end up there, and then I think prior to Cam signing there was a lot of speculation that maybe me and him would play together again. But no, this time around when I was a free agent, we didn't really have much communication with them this time around. And I couldn't be happier, though, to be here in Seattle. But it does give me great pleasure to see those clips online of Cam dancing during warm-ups and seeing him enjoy it, because it just brings back a lot of memories, man. He's one of a kind, and I saw it for 9 years, and he's not going to change, and it's cool to see.
Before I get to your one-of-a-kind quarterback of the moment, Greg, I do want to keep you, if you don't mind, in the role of analyst and paparazzi, and obviously now you're a podcast host, so you're excellent at this. I give you the floor on Cam. And why is there a disconnect between what you know as Cam and what fans perceive of him, do you think, Greg?
I think that's a good question. I think it's a question we've all been kind of asked and answering since 2011, since people first saw him. And I think a big part of it was, people weren't used to seeing the quarterback position played the way he played it, with the theatrics and the running around and the celebrations and the pregame dancing, and like all that stuff was very new. And I think a lot of people fit into the box of how they wanted their quarterback to act and how they wanted him to hold his press conferences and what they wanted him to wear. And here comes this kind of trailblazer of a personality who we're used to see. If he was a wide receiver, we've seen 100 of them, right? We've seen guys like him, play wide out and play defensive back who have big personalities and are, super entertaining on the field as they play. But now here was a guy playing quarterback. And I think it just took people a while to kind of wrap their heads around it. And, as teammates and as somebody who knows him as well as I do, I always took every opportunity to make sure people understood, what you see and and the dancing and all that stuff. When it comes time to playing and preparing and practicing and training and all the stuff that really matters about playing quarterback, Cam checks all those boxes twice, and guys that played with him loved him as a teammate, loved his competitive spirit in practice, his competitive spirit in the games. Personally, obviously, I've been on the record a million times about what he's meant to my career and how much I've enjoyed him as a person and just enjoyed being a teammate of his. So, I hope other than in week 2, I hope he has a great season. I want to see him bounce back, and I want to see him kind of answer a lot of the people that have doubted him.
That said, your choice of Seattle, how much did Russell Wilson, who's pretty damn special in his own right and wasn't a number 1 overall pick like Cam, and a national champion like Cam, a self-made man a little bit more, you could say, about your current quarterback. How much did playing with him factor into you signing where you signed?
It was a huge factor. Russ was a guy that I've had a lot of respect for from a distance, from across the field, from from a competitive standpoint, playing against him so many times there over the years, and just seeing how he carried himself, just seeing how he competed, just seeing how, no matter what the score was, he took that field thinking they were going to come back and win. I remember playoff game back in 2015. We jump up 31-0 at halftime in the divisional round. I mean, we're rolling. Bank of America, our stadium's rocking. We have them dead to rights, and we had to recover an onside kick to win the game at the end just to eke it out, just because, they had Russell. And, they had a lot of other good players, too, don't get me wrong, defensively and whatnot. But, there was just something unique and special about him. And everybody I had talked to echoed those same sentiments that I felt in person competing against them. And all that stuff has just, couldn't have been more accurate now in my time getting to know him as a person and being able to learn and grow and learn this offense and try to find my place here. He's just been, there's a reason why he's the best, if not amongst the conversation of being the best in the game right now. And he's just special. His communication, his ability to get guys to do things the right way, to show that example day in and day out. He was a huge reason that I came here, and I've been very fortunate to play with another, special quarterback.
Greg Olsen here on the Rich Eisen Show. We'll get to your podcast in a second. You've been on Super Bowl team. You've been in the Super Bowl. You've been on a team that made the Super Bowl, Greg, right? You've been on teams that have tried to make the Super Bowl. You've been on teams that struggled. So you've been through in your 14 years, you've seen it all. Seattle, we saw what they did last year. Now here's another year in, and the program, everybody knows exactly what is expected of them, and Pete Carroll's been there for a very long time. How do you see this team? And I know you don't usually speak of Super Bowls prior to a season, but how do you see this team, Greg? Super Bowl? What do you think?
As you say, I think, so many people have said to me, what a great choice going out to Seattle. You can have you have a chance to go out and win a Super Bowl at the end, and all that stuff is true. I think the reality is there's a handful plus teams every year that year in, year out, barring a catastrophic injury or a come out of nowhere kind of story, there's a handful of teams plus a few more that are always in the mix to be there at the end. And whether that culminates in a Super Bowl, whether that culminates in a playoff run, to what extent, I think nobody can predict. I think teams, going into the season say, we have a shot. We are talented. We have the right pieces at the right position, right? Quarterback, the organizational support, coaching, just the consistency of the program, consistency of the organization. Seattle checks all those boxes. But as we all know, year in and year out, it doesn't guarantee you anything. Couple years, 2015 year in Carolina, I think we all thought we had a chance to be good. I don't know if any of us thought we were going to win 17 games. And then on the flip side, in 2016, same team, pretty much everything the same, and we thought we were just going to do it again, and we went 6-10. So I think so much of being consistent in this league is being honest with yourself about resetting every single offseason and saying the previous year, the previous 10 years, they mean nothing. We need to regroup. We need to reassess. We need to be honest with ourselves and say, here's what it's going to take. All that work it took last year to make that run, it's going to be that plus some. And they've done as good a job out here as doing that. For 10 years, I think they've been in the playoffs 9 times or whatever. It's unheard of in today's NFL. So I think so far it's been great. I think we're very talented. I think defensively we have some really good players, some really good pieces, and traditionally, Seattle, they know what they're doing on defense, that's for sure. And offensively, I think we got a lot of talent. I think DK Metcalf is really, really, he's special. I'll tell you what, I knew from afar he was good. Now seeing him and watching him grow and develop, he has a chance to be, I don't like throwing around superlatives and comparisons, but, you're talking like a Calvin Johnson type guy, big, fast, aggressive. He's got a ways to go to obviously reach what Calvin achieved, but from just an approach standpoint, every day he wants to learn. Every day he's trying to figure out ways to improve his game. And then physically he checks every box you've ever thought of for wide receivers. So his development's going to be really interesting to watch. He's had some unbelievable days at camp. Our running backs, our offensive – we have a lot of good pieces. And, when you have the guy behind center like Russ who can, kind of make magic happen, you're always going to be in every game and you're always going to have a chance. And I think that's all every player asks for.
Greg Olsen here on the Rich Eisen Show. You had a former teammate who isn't there anymore because he was trying to be somewhat inventive and not following the COVID rules. And I'm that's I guess what Chris, I'm putting it somewhat mildly right there. I'm trying to be.
You can go through the front door.
I read about your team. It seems like your team is locked in and saying we're going to be about football from here on out. We are not going to have anybody do anything stupid. Do you think we're going to have a 17-week season in the NFL regular season, Greg, in this COVID-19 world? What do you think?
I do, and whether that's just the optimism, the optimist in me speaking, I really in my heart believe that we're going to get through it. I think the last 5-6 weeks of camp, I think the data and the numbers of the amount of testing that we've done and the fraction of positive tests, and then even some of the positive tests we all knew, we all heard the story came out to be false positives. I think the data and the track record suggests that we're doing a really good job. Now, when you start introducing travel and going to different cities, I think that'll be the next step. I think the first week or two of the season when guys start going on the road and there's transportation and going to and from stadiums, I think that could. But I think when you look around the country, it seems like there's a lot of positive developments going on. It seems like, the positivity rate is continuing to decline and cases are declining and all that. And then within our little bubble of the NFL, the same is to be said. So it's all about guys making good decisions. It's all about guys understanding that they're not only representing themselves when they make those decisions, but they're kind of holding the whole team in their hands. And I think our guys have really done a good job. Pete does a great job of communicating that multiple times a day and just stressing the importance of what that means to protect the team. And knock on wood, so far the results have been really positive.
Man, and then Pete, we're to talk about communicating his soliloquy on voting and society and white people in this country need to quote unquote be coached up was truly moving over the weekend. Do you think, Greg, there's already a conversation that what we saw in the NBA with players saying we're not playing for the moment because we need to focus on what's going on in the real world. Do you think that could happen in the NFL, Greg?
I think in today's day, I think anything is possible. I don't think I think it would be naive and kind of short-sighted to eliminate anything from the table. I think those are discussions that are going on amongst various groups of people, various teams. I think there are conversations. Obviously, those are conversations just going on throughout society. And certain people are going to feel differently. Certain people are going to feel certain acts are going to get greater attention, are going to get greater traction. And everyone has that right. I think the NBA felt that at the time in the wake of the latest incident in Wisconsin, that was what was in their best interest for the movement. And I think they have every right to make those decisions, and it was powerful, and obviously it got the world's attention. How the NFL and how individual teams decide, I think will be unique to each team. I think it'll be unique to each team's core set of leaders and the way that they feel it's best to move forward towards progress and to move forward towards, implementing a lot of the change that everyone is calling for. So I don't think anything's off the table, but I also haven't heard like a resounding kind of message or voice that's something that's heavily being considered. So as I sit here today, I would be surprised, at least within the bubble I've been in, but I don't think anything should be taken off the table at this point. Greg
Olsen of the Seahawks here on the Rich Eisen Show, and everybody who's been hearing our conversation so far knows why Greg has already got a gig with Fox Sports when you're done with playing, as well as you're perfect for this podcast world as well. TE1, you're talking with folks like Shannon Sharp and Ozzie Newsome and Mike Ditka and Tony Gonzalez, as well as Kittle and Kelsey Curran. So it's a tight end only world on your pod, Greg?
It is. So the idea behind it, as it was the idea was kicked around, is, when you look at the NFL today, and you mentioned Kelsey and Kittle, and you got Zach Ertz, who easily could have been part of this conversation, and so many guys throughout the league. the tight end position, really for the first time in history, is a superstar-driven position. There's household names, not just of your favorite team, but if you're just a fan of the NFL, you know who these guys are. They're playing for Super Bowls. They're, getting 1,000-yard seasons year in and year out. And we wanted to tell that story. It wasn't always like that. So we went back. We started with Mike Ditka. We released the Mike Ditka and the Ozzie Newsome as the first 2 episode interviews last week. And we kind of set the bar in 1960 when Ditka came in the league and kind of took it by storm, playing a position that nobody really even knew what it meant. And we talked about it with Ozzie Newsome, who kind of carried that torch forward. And it brings us to tomorrow. We'll launch Shannon Sharpe, who was just awesome. Anyone who's ever listened to him, or he's not short of opinions and short of stories, and just the guys that we got to tell this kind of evolution of the tight end position really exceeded my wildest imagination. And from Shannon, we go to Tony Gonzalez. We start out with 4 Hall of Famers in a row.
Nice.
And I mean, it was just so cool to hear them open up and share their stories of their upbringings. It was so relevant to today's time here, talking with Ozzie about growing up in the South during segregation, and Shannon touching on it. When I talked to Shannon, it was shortly after the George Floyd tragedy, and everybody, the movement, and everybody was, the world was kind of in uproar, and here I am talking to Shannon, and he's touching on his life growing up in Georgia, and it was so timely, just the way it worked out. He was really able to share some really unique perspectives. So we're really excited about it. The response and the feedback of the series has so far been really positive, and we're going to start getting into some really fun conversations, some tough conversations with Shannon and Tony, Kittle, Kelsey. So we got some cool guys coming up the next couple weeks.
I love pretty much everybody you mentioned. I just love their great personalities, great stories. I'm sure everybody should be checking out TE1. And just, Greg, I like to leave people in a better position. I think, if you don't mind, you should begin to expand the world of guest possibilities. For instance, anybody that's remotely close to the tight end position should be open to the world. By that, I mean, maybe Will Ferrell should come on, because if I'm not mistaken, he played you in one of the first Zooms of the Seattle Seahawks off-season workout program, correct? Where
he did.
He was introduced.
He did.
You were supposed to be on the Zoom, and then Pete Carroll brought in Will Ferrell as you, right, Greg? Didn't that happen?
He did, and I had no idea it was coming.
Come
Pete
on.
Called me a couple minutes. I had no idea. Pete called me a couple minutes before. He's like, "Hey, I'm going to need you to bear with me during this team meeting. I'm going to introduce you, but I don't need you to say anything." And I was like, that's interesting. So now we hang up. 5 minutes later, I join the Zoom, and I'm like racking my brain, like, what's going to happen? Why am I not allowed to talk, right? And sure enough, Will Ferrell comes on, and he does a spot-on impersonation. For anybody who hasn't seen it, it's a spot-on impersonation. So I think he talked to somebody, because somebody gave him all my mannerisms and my quirks, and it was really well done, and it was a fun way to kind of meet the team.
That was your introduction to the team? Was that really that day?
Yeah, that was it. It was one of our first team Zoom calls, and everybody got a kick out of it, and it was really well done. It was real. For anybody who hasn't seen it, they should go find it now, because it was pretty funny.
Yeah, it's out there, and probably on Seahawks.com. There's YouTube as well. Thanks for the call, Greg. I'm glad to hear everything's great with you. You sound great, and I can't wait to see you crush it up there. Great spot.
I appreciate it.
You got Jamal Adams.
Great talking to you, man.
You got Jamal Adams too. I mean, my gosh, everything's looking up for you, Greg Olsen.
I like it. Hopefully, we just got to keep it going.
Okay.
Keep it going. We're almost there.
Knocking on wood for you. Thanks for the call, Greg. Appreciate it.
Take care.
You got it.
Bye.
Greg Olsen.